So the way I created my book was by using Adobe InDesign. In order to make the book, we used a service called Blurb. Blurb.com is a printer, so what we did was we used their service, and we were able to make a tailor-made book meant for their service so it would print easily. And so we used Blurb service in Adobe InDesign to pretty much make a PDF of the book and then send it to Blurb so they could print it. So this is what the interface of Adobe InDesign looks like. What I mainly did was I used the A-Master, which is pretty much just a representation of what you'll see on every single page. This is universally what every page will look like, but on other pages, such as this one, you can lay over that. See, for example, right here, you can lay pictures over that. And another thing that's cool about the A-Master is that you can select places to put your page numbers. As you can see, they're labeled by A's at the bottom corners. So this is my title page. I used pictures that I personally took at Griffin Strings in Palo Alto. I used text boxes on colors that I'd selected from a book of Pantone colors that Miss Parkinson had given us to select a mood, and I felt that the colors that I used on this book suited Griffin Strings and just the topic of rock and roll in general. I used the fonts. I used fonts that were relevant as well. I thought that this font it reminded me of what I'd see at a guitar store, so I used this font. The font's actually called Guitar Rumble, so I guess that's a good thing. On my 5th page, you can see a table of contents. We'd originally made all of this in English, so all the text you see was already written on a Google Doc before it was put into Adobe InDesign. Previously, it was just filler text. So what we'd do is we'd select a text box such as this one, and we'd right-click and fill with placeholder text. As you can see right here is the option. And once we actually had our text ready, we would put it in and take out the filler text. Or of course we'd take out the filler text first and then put it in. Here are guides. I used guides a lot to help me center the text boxes and text, because it would look awkward if it wasn't centered. For example, here I placed pictures inside the text by just using the shape tools and drawing shapes and then placing using it's Control D, which is place right here, or an Apple D. And so doing that, I was able to put pictures in the middle of my text, as you can see here. I didn't really do that much because I didn't think it fit the mood or just the topic in general. But for example, here, in order to show Mr. Ford at work while I was talking about him, I used the picture in the text, and I also used a separate text box here, as you can see, to highlight a quote that Mr. Ford had said. And then I also used pictures that I'd taken of the other Griffin employees, James and Steve here, and put quotes next to them just so I could share what they had to say. This is my works cited page. This is my conclusion. At the end here, I'd done a full spread of a set of guitars I'd seen on the walls at Griffin. I thought this was really cool and a great way to pretty much show how beautiful Griffin is. if one were to press Shift W, you'd go to full screen. Yeah, there. You'd go to full screen, and you can see the final, what the spread would look like. Whereas if you're just looking in InDesign, you don't see very high quality pictures. That's because InDesign, what they do is instead of actually placing the files, they link the files, as you can see here. This means link. So it's just showing you a representation of what the picture you place looks like. It's not actually the picture, but once you save it and export it as a PDF, see, for example here, blurb PDF export, which is what we used. Once you export it as a PDF, then all the pictures show up in their actual resolution. So these may look grainy here, but that's just because they're links and not actually the pictures themselves.